when I was a noob and didn't know what I was doing. Hello and welcome. I'm Lindsay Crane and these are my retro craft dreams. If you like to buy vintage craft kits like I do, inevitably you're going to come across some that have already been started. So what do? Do you buy them and finish them? Do you ignore them and never look at them again? Do you do something else entirely? Personally, I like the work to all be my own, and I have thus far avoided buying pre-worked kits. But there are some kits that are pretty rare that I may only see in half-completed forms, and I would like to be able to have solutions for how I can approach working those kits in a manner to my liking. So I kind of have a practice run today. I have a kit that I started several years ago when I didn't know what I was doing. And so today I'm going to go through the process of how I decided to finally fix it. While today's kit is a Christmas piece, the issue and the solutions are pretty universal if you do vintage kits. So I do hope that you can still find value in this. I also hope that I will do something like this again in the future. I do hope to have plenty of videos problem solving vintage kits and the issues that can arise when working them. A quick side note, because of the nature of this project being more about the procedure of how I worked through it as opposed to just the stitching itself, we do have a little bit of a change up in format today. And while I do have all the stitchy montage goodness towards the end, the bulk of the middle of this video will be some vloggy style updates as I work through the process of reworking this kit. Do let me know down below if you're enjoying that. So let's travel back in time to before Thanksgiving and have a look at how I fixed it. Allow me to introduce you to one of my problem children. If you're curious and you stick around a little while, I do have an episode coming up where I will introduce you to all of my problem children. And when that video is up, I will pop it right up here. But for now, meet Dimensions Stained Glass Christmas Window. The paperwork is copyright 1983, but the canvas is 1982. It is a long stitch, which is a type of needlepoint, or specifically it's one needlepoint stitch, basically a satin stitch. This problem child is all my own doing. I didn't do it right. So let me give you the rundown. This was the first long stitch and probably the first needlepoint that I did. So I was really a little paranoid that the yarn would run out or something like that. So I did it wrong, even though that was on purpose. There was an intent behind it. I did it in the most economical way. I did not get it done in time for that Christmas. And then when Christmas was over, I didn't want to work on it when it wasn't Christmas. And then last year, 2021, I got it back out. But by that point, I had done a lot more needlepoint and I knew more about what I was doing. And I really was not satisfied with the work that I had done. So I was kind of paralyzed with indecision for a little while, not really knowing how I wanted to proceed. The work itself doesn't look bad. My stitches are straight, they're smooth. It's not even necessarily wrong, it's just not ideal. You know, you can see right between the stitches. I have this is not from this kit, but many of my Monarch Horizons long stitch kits come with this insert, and it's just got this really great diagram here that shows the difference between the proper way and the improper way. In the proper way, you're gonna start at one, go down, go all the way back up and down again. So you're covering the back equally with the front. And right here is probably the best visible example of how those stitches pull in opposite ways. So here's what it looks like on the back. Get my little bit of blue. So, you know, it's just very, very minimal. You save a lot of yarn. And that's why I did it. It's not wrong. It's just not what I want anymore. the potentiality for being able to see the white canvas between the stitches is not ideal. So this is my problem child, my Merry Christmas. I'm going to solve this year. I've been going over and over trying to problem solve this problem child. And it's been a couple years and I've finally hit on a solution I think that will work. It will be a good compromise between what the piece needs and what I need and how I can assure that I don't run out of the vintage yarn. So basically I had three options. One, pick up where I left off and just continue the proper way and try to ignore any visual differences that might be visible in the finished product. Two, pick up where I left off, but continue the incorrect way just for the sake of consistency. Three, I could frog the whole thing, pick all the yarn out, and start all over. However, that runs the risk of destroying the vintage wool and making it unusable and therefore unable to complete the project. In thinking about it, I did finally decide that I did not want to do it incorrectly. Part of what I love about doing these vintage kits is taking the approach of, doing the thing as it was intended to be done. A lot of people love to modify kits, update them, use new stitches and new yarns and all that kind of thing. But for me, the whole point is to do it in its intended original vintage way. So option two is out. I don't want to do it the incorrect way. So that left me with leaving the incorrect stitches or risking damaging the wool. But then I realized there's a middle ground here. So here is my plan. I am going to pick up where I left off, and then when it's done, I'll assess how much yarn I have left over and frog and redo it bit by bit until I run out of yarn. And with any luck, I'll be able to pull my yarn and, keep it nice, not damaged. We'll see. The instructions do actually say to do the lettering first. So I'm going to do it correctly this time. One thing that I will have to be very cautious of when working over here in these edges next to where I've already worked, I cannot allow my needle to pierce these yarns through the back because then I won't be able to pull them out. So I might work all over here first and then do these sections last. So I'm feeling really pretty good. I'm going to go frame this up. I'm going to frog the blue. I'm going to at least frog this M, and then I'm going to start stitching. And I'll finally have my Merry Christmas sign. We're just going to undo some of this blue very gently. Now we are going to have some stitch memory happening here. No! No, 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 can't have it, no, you can't have that, no, stop. Can we see his face here? You really just want to play. All right. Well, I guess I will stop this for now because Toby wants to play. Show them your face. There he is. Well, Toby just thinks frogging is the best game ever. I got the blue out, and now I'm just going to do some of this. So I think I'm going to be able to just do this whole strand. I'm feeling, now that I've done a little, I'm feeling a little more confident in the wool being able to hold up to this process. So I'm just going to go under, but I take several passes I try and keep my needle as close to the canvas as possible so that I'm not splitting fibers. And then as soon as there's enough to grab onto, then I switch to my fingers. And sometimes if that's too sharp, the eye of the needle can get in there a little better. Now we are definitely losing a lot of fiber. And I am concerned about the stitch memory, the kinkiness on the long stitches, but I definitely won't be undoing more than this until I've done some stitching and looked into how I can get these kinks out without further damage. Tell you what, frogging, crochet, and knitting is way more fun. So, you know, it's not unscathed. It's definitely a little worse for wear. There's our pile of damage. This is as far as I got at the end of night 1. I got a little distracted, but it was about an hour and a half of work, I think. And it already just looks so much better. Here's the old. So I'm definitely glad that I'm doing it this way. I am a slight bit worried that there might not be enough. The M alone took 2 full strands, and that's the difference on the back. Of course, we're looking at it upside down. Anyway, so that's today's progress. I have lost my light, and yes, I am watching the 1982 Thanksgiving Day Parade as I stitch. I have now redone, well, I've done all of these letters and all of these. Over here is the previous stitching. In person, I see a difference. I think a big part of it is that in doing it properly, I was also able to get much better tension. You know, on these, I couldn't pull very tight because I was just pulling, you know, one hole across or something like that. And so for tension, it's definitely much better. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I think I'm going to go ahead and undo all of this because I did a test on getting the kinks out of one of the strands, and it worked really well. I basically just held it over my humidifier so that it would get damp but not, you know, soaked, and then I pulled it and smoothed it with my fingers the same way I do with my cotton yarn that gets all kinky. And then the other part, of course, that had me worried, a visitor, was the wear and tear on the yarn. And let me just tell you, do you see how off the A and the S are? This was really crooked and it wasn't lining up at all with the paint. I really wanted the lettering to all line up on the bottom. And so particularly with the A, I actually pulled it out and redid it probably 3 times trying to get it to look right, but it's holding up pretty well. So I think that's a pretty good test for the fact that this stuff can take it and I can get the kinks out. So I don't think I have to worry about pulling that out. So I'm going to finish removing these letters and then I will finish the red, and then the blocks will be able to be the last thing I do. And then it's just filling in, you know, I'll make sure my edges are straight, but then apart from that, there won't be as much thinking involved. So it'll probably go much faster. See, and this is why you have to work backwards. That's what I mean. If it was unclear, by, you know, piercing the yarn. So you can't just, I mean, if you want to reuse the yarn, if you don't care about reusing the yarn, of course, you could just cut it. But because I want to use the original materials, it is important to me to, you know, make sure I have enough to complete the piece. So yeah, my plan may not have been as well thought through because I do need to ensure that if I'm going to remove stitches, I need to ensure that I don't, pierce them, because then I wouldn't be able to get them out, at least not without cutting, which of course I'm attempting to not have to do. Oh no! The brown really did pierce through it. So I think I'm gonna have to undo the brown. And I can see that the brown is pierced by the gold, so I'll have to undo the gold. I'm gonna have to undo all of it. Well, if nothing else, at least I was able to make a decision and move forward, even if the decision I made is now moot. Well, okay. Brown it is. So the next time you see this piece from the front, it's probably going to be like only the new stitches. I don't know, maybe I can get away with leaving the green for a while, but it's hard to say at this point. All of the red that you see here is the new stitches, but here's what I wanted to show you. I'm like literally 3 stitches from finishing, and I did hit this. This is what you've got to watch out for when you are reusing yarn, because it's lost so many fibers in this spot that it's about to break. So I'm gonna have to pull this last stitch and cut that off. It just stinks because I'm so close to the bow being finished, although it is also possible that it was already a weak spot. There were a couple of the new pieces of yarn that had thin spots that I had to cut. So that is something to be aware of when using wool in general. There are times when it's a thin spot, and if you pull that through the canvas, some of it will get caught in the canvas and it will just get pulled apart. So that is usually when you have to cut it. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you this time. Okay, this is where we're at. I went ahead and pulled everything. So it's all new stitching now, and everything that remains is just rectangles and then some back stitching. Well, I am being plagued by perfectionist problems. So I thought the rectangles would be the easy part, but because the printing is crooked, I've been really indecisive about where the actual lines should be, and then getting caught up in, wanting these to be perfectly centered and each section to be even, and also really not wanting to count, I guess. I did this and then I pulled it out and did it again. I did want to go a little beyond the edge anyway, just for extra framing, but I counted it out, but it's not even, which in hindsight, that's because, you lose half a square on each end vertically. Whereas when you're going here, it's going to fill it all in. So anyway, I'm wishing that now I had gone up one more thread, and I can't let myself pull that. I also have these threads here because I was trying to mark the line straight across. I've been having so much trouble making myself actually do math or figure it out. So finally I thought, let's just start in the middle and work my way out. I'm cooking along all right. I did some counting and some decision making, and so we've got the yellow going here. And so I was able to go ahead and finish this blue block, but not before absentmindedly starting all the way over here to keep my line straight, and then realizing that it didn't belong there and I had to undo it. And then once I get this orange block figured out and centered on the blue one, then I can center this green one and finish this green, and therefore cut that off because I don't know exactly where I want this to stop yet. This one I tried to count out to make it the exact same height as this, but that was going to take it like 2 squares way up here, which was just way too much. And then I looked at the picture, and I don't know if I can tell on screen, but it does appear that this is shorter than this down here. So I think it's supposed to be that way. So that's all right. Got a good portion of a checkerboard going here. And I haven't had to pull anything out in a little while, so I guess that's a good thing. All right, I have finished the dark blue. The center is all done. But here's something I didn't expect. Something must have happened to the blue yarn because a lot of it had a weak spot at the same place. And so I had to cut all of my long pieces into shorter pieces. I don't know what modern crewel yarn is like. I have not actually worked with new crewel yarn. I've only ever worked with vintage. But I do know that with vintage, sometimes there can be weak spots. So you do need to check your yarn every time because, you know, sometimes it will just fray apart on you as you're stitching. So you do want to check it beforehand. Watch out for the threadbare bits. Got a blanket thief over here. All right, y'all. I'm so close. I can taste it. Just the green left, and then the back stitching and the branch to do. So, yay! Well, just finished this side over here. I knew the top and bottom were going to be a little bit different because they were lined up with these, and these are different, but I didn't think it would be this visually apparent. So that's kind of a bummer because of how very much I tried to get everything balanced out and equal, but you know, it'll be fine. It's just, you know. All right, I'm in the home stretch now. Just have the top row left and then all the back stitching and a little branch there. So that's exciting. So I was about to do some stitching and some of my Christmas lights went out. So I'm going to put on a record. You'll probably be listening to something different and change out these lights, and then I'm going to get going on this last haul here. So, this much. Oh no! Dude. Okay. So last night I finished all of the straight stitches and I'm super excited because like it's been a couple years. So now I need to do what I have been calling backstitching. However, I was going through the instructions to, see the procedure, see what I needed to do. There's also multiple types of lines here on this chart. So I, wanted to go through and see what was what. And turns out it's not all backstitching. There is backstitching, of course, but it says to keep the stitches approximately 1/4 inch long. So that means that it's actually going to go faster than I thought, because usually I do backstitching on like a cross stitch and, I'll go every hole or something. So 1/4 inch, like I can cover this pretty quickly with a stitch that long. And then some of it is irregular backstitch, except make stitches the relative length of a line segment on the chart. So that means like, to make that full thing one stitch, I think. I'll have to compare to the picture a little bit, but so that is going to be fewer stitches if I can take longer ones. And then all of the lines around the rectangles are just straight stitches. Like one stitch for this whole segment. Oh, it's going to go so much faster than I thought it would. And then there's also couching for some of those sections. So that just means where it's like really long. They've got some spots marked out with the dots here for where you're supposed to tack it down. So yeah, this is I'm excited that I think this is going to go much faster than I thought it would, which is not what happened the last time I had some outlines going on. So I'm going to see if I can power through this and get through it in a day and finally have this thing done and able to like decorate with it this year. It'd have to be in this ugly frame because I don't have time to properly mount it and frame it, but still, like, done is done. So that's my plan for today, and wish me luck. Yay! I love this so much more than I thought I would. I mean, I knew I liked it. It was kitschy and weird, but it pops and it just looks so great. So I happily find some wood grain washi tape that I got on here temporarily. It's a little pale and see-through, but you know, you can get an idea, and it's better than what was there. But I just, every time I look at it, it makes me smile. And all of the imperfections and the things that I kept wanting to fix throughout the process, and I said, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. It's just, it's just a Christmas decoration. Now in its final form, hanging on the wall, I don't see those things. Even the different size rectangles, I don't notice them. Like, they're not as obvious now that it's got the outlines on. So, oh my God, it's going to be so good with all my Christmas stuff once I get all my Christmas stuff made and put out in some future Christmas. So, yeah, I am just thrilled. So we're going to put this baby right up here. Although the washi tape doesn't actually stick to that canvas. So I feel like I learned a lot during this process, not only about how to fix a kit like this, how to rework it, how to handle the materials, but I also just learned a lot about my own skill level. It's really a pleasant thing to learn that you can always improve, even on the simplest things. You know, when I was first working on this kit, I swear I was on it for weeks. But I did most of the lettering in 2 nights. I've gotten so much faster and I've gotten so much better, and I didn't think that that was going to be the case, you know? And so it's just a really nice thing to discover. Now, another thing I realized is if I had not undone my previous work, I might have had to anyway, because I had not started with the letters. And so a lot of it would have been really far off because of the crooked printing on that. So it was actually very important that I started with the letters, because they were the things that needed to be placed precisely. And then the rectangles worked out from that. I cannot tell you how many times I picked my stitches, and there were additional times I was tempted to pick my stitches. I think I undid more just in the natural course of making this piece than what I had there to start with. So my main concern with pulling the yarn was, the wear and tear and making it threadbare. So I was trying to be really careful of that. But in fact, I had more issues with the dark blue and the yellow yarn that had never been used than I did with my reused yarn. The blue had lots of spots. The whole hank must have somehow got nicked or clipped or something, because several pieces had thin spots in the same location. And then the yellow was going along just fine. And the last 2 or 3 pieces, I even checked every strand before I used them. And yet still somehow, after doing several stitches, something got caught and got a long bit, you saw, got a long bit of the threadbare section. And that happened 2 or 3 times with the yellow. So I only had 1 thin spot with the red, and that red took some abuse. So that's another interesting thing to learn and an interesting thing to note. Both of my primary concerns of unpicking the yarn in the first place and wear and tear on the yarn, I don't have to be worried about those things because it's going to happen anyway. So, I guess that kind of makes me feel a little better if I buy a vintage kit that's got some work on it and I want to pick it out and start it over. I probably can manage that. I mean, it's going to depend on the type of stitching. Not every kind of stitch can be easily pulled out. Not every stitcher has put the stitches in a way that can be pulled out. That is my biggest takeaway, apart from my really awesome, beautiful stained glass window. So I think that's going to do it for today. That was quite a haul. I really appreciate you sticking around through this whole video. Or if you skipped ahead, totally get it. Do let me know what you thought of this vlogier, chattier style of video. Comment down below. Please, like, tell me, do you buy vintage kits? Have you thought about it? What would you do with a kit that was already started? Vintage or not? I'm so, like, eager to know. I just really want to know what other people do with kits that have been started. I've heard that there's a whole world out there of people that just love to rescue kits and finish them, but I'm not in that mindset of wanting to finish someone else's work. And I would love to know where those thoughts come from so that maybe I can learn how to share them. So if you do that, if you buy vintage kits, if you buy pre-worked kits, let me know down below. I'd love to hear about it. Please remember to subscribe so you can catch my next videos. It also just really helps me out and will help my channel grow and reach more people. I'm moving soon. I think I mentioned that if not today, in another video. So my next few videos may be a little different. I've got a couple more vloggy style ones that I'm working on that will help me, that will be a little more flexible around my move. But, you know, I'm going to be working projects in the background the whole time too. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and that way you can let me know that you liked it. And in the meantime, I hope you have a really happy day, happy holiday if you have a holiday right now. Thank you so much for watching. Happy crafting, and I will see you next time. Bye. Am I getting a blooper? I don't know. This video is too long for bloopers, sorry. And I know there's a lawnmower going, but leaf blower? It's snowing. Oh, snow blower. Oh, I forgot those existed. No, you can't have this. It's getting closer. Nothing much to visually look at because you can't, yeah. The siren's done, but now the snow blower is closer. Why did it all just like evaporate? My thoughts just poof. Hey, laser lips, your mama was a snow blower.